You're listening to DraftKings Network.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz podcast.
The Miami Heat have won 6 straight. The Panthers have won 5 straight. Skip Schumacher is manager of the year. And as an added bonus local hour celebration, we've got 2 grid of death punishments being served right now. Roy is wearing vampire teeth. Roy, can you please give me as much information as you can before we get to David Samson on Sam Reinhart having the strongest start in the history of the Florida Panthers?
Yeah, he's basically in the running for the Hart Trophy at this point. Top 10 in goal scoring, top 10 in points. So it's big time season for him right now.
I'm hoping to talk to Roy more on today's show than I ever have. Stugotz is allegedly doing a grid of death punishment. I heard in the other room that it had accessories and that all he had to do was be shirtless.
That was a different one. I mean,
I would understand if you didn't want to be shirtless.
I'm gross. I mean,
but what are you doing right now? What is your costume? This doesn't seem like much of a grid of death punishment. You have put on a hoodie and you've just said it seems snug because 34s aren't made the same they used to the way they used to.
They're not making XLs like they used to, Dan. This is an XL and it is snug. The pants even more snug. I am Rocky. I'm supposed to be doing a Rocky IV workout video, but this is what they gave me, so I'm wearing it. I mean...
All right, so the video, the actual punishment where you have to run around and have your heart pump for a little bit is coming, because right now this looks rather comfortable, not an actual punishment. You're just in a hoodie.
It's something I would wear. Double XL, but it's something I would wear. You're right.
It's not
I mean,
much.
you look like E.T.
That's the other thing.
Well, thank you.
It's not much of a punishment. More of a punishment is Roy Bellamy having to speak through vampire teeth. Just out of curiosity, the Panthers, Roy, are legitimately good again. We know this already. Yes, we are. We have enough of a sample to know this.
Yes, absolutely. And they're going to get better. They're not even fully healthy yet.
That is David Samson in the background. Nothing personal. I urge you to find it if
David.
you want something to watch or listen to before we start our day. He goes live every morning at 8 a.m. A number of things that I want to talk to you about. The first is the A's and owners relocating to Las Vegas, or the idea of it. What's real here? What's posturing? What's a lie? You are on record as saying that move is not going to happen.
Well, I am alone on an island. Everyone assumes, and you're going to see headlines, so get ready. The owners are meeting right now in Arlington, and there's going to be a vote. And the vote is for the relocation of the A's to Vegas. However, that doesn't mean the A's are relocating to Vegas. That vote is required in order for relocation to happen, but it is not the final step. It is merely the next step. There have to be all those agreements, construction agreements, operating agreements, non-relocation agreements, agreements between MGM and the A's over how that building's going to get built. And there's all sorts of hurdles still existing, but Rob Manfred wants to get the vote out of the way so they don't have to think about it anymore. And that's what's happening in Arlington right now.
I don't know if people can hear the fire alarm, but we are going to go right through it because we're on live, and one of these days we're going to burn live on television. We're going to leave here looking like stuntmen with our backs on fire because we ignore all of these fire alarms. But just to be clear, David, are you worried at this point of how alone you are because of how wrong you might appear to be here by saying that this is all largely business posturing and moves like this are rare? You know it. You've lived it.
Yeah, I worry about getting sick. I don't worry about being wrong with something like this, only in that I can tell you that in my experience, while John Fisher can say all he wants, that he couldn't get a deal done in Oakland, he's run out of patience, he's been trying for 18 years. He said that to a bunch of fans. I covered this on Nothing Personal this morning. John Fisher walked into the owners' meetings, and he was met by 3 fans, and he actually stopped and talked to them. I give him credit for that. And he said, hey, I've been trying for 18 years. Well, I think that math is a little rough, and I think when you're trying to move the team to San Jose, That doesn't count as trying to keep the team in Oakland. And I do know that if they wanted to stay in Oakland, that a deal could get done. And this could only be part of getting a deal done. And I say that because the deal in Vegas, it blows. It's not a better situation for the A's. It's a worse market. It's a saturated market. It's a market that's not interested in having a summer baseball team. It is bound to fail. And therefore, I still believe that there will be a way to keep the A's in Oakland.
David, what's going on with Brian Cashman? I'm enjoying it, but what's your thought?
Let me explain. Let me explain this part to the audience.
Okay.
Brian Cashman told Gary Phillips of the Daily News of Giancarlo Stanton, quote, "I'm not going to tell you he's going to play every game next year because he's not. He's going to wind up getting hurt again, more likely than not, because it seems to be part of his game." that last part there, that last
it's
part.
It's a shot, Dan. Yeah.
I mean, it's injury seems to be a part of his game. Who's done?
Cashman.
Why?
Done.
Why?
You don't survive that.
What do you mean?
That is unacceptable.
What,
that
telling
your
the
GM
truth?
calls out your player that way.
He's telling the truth, David.
I don't care. The business we're in is not telling the truth. The business we're in is public posturing. It's telling the media and the fans the best message you can, always being positive, always having the back of your players. You think for 1 minute that this is going away? You think that Aaron Judge is going to stand for Cashman calling out his friend Giancarlo? No chance.
David, hold on just a second. Go get your glass of water. Go find water. We'll come back to you here. You did excellent use of the cough button.
Amazing.
There. Better than anyone here has used it in 20 years. Just want to make sure you're okay. But you're saying something very strong there, David. You're saying Cashman is done. No one else is saying that.
No one else is also saying that the A's are staying in Oakland. Who is this kook?
What are you doing?
I am not a kook, Mike. I'm trying to explain to people what actually happens behind the scenes of owners' meetings and what this vote actually means, because the headlines are all going to be wrong. It's possible the A's will still relocate, but when you read a headline that says A's relocation confirmed because owners vote 30-0 to relocate, that is a misleading, incorrect headline.
But what do you mean Cashman is done? He's not done. He still has a job.
Well, he currently still has a job, but this is the beginning of the end, and it started with that front page cuss-filled, and I don't say cuss, but Hal Steinbrenner called it that curse-filled diatribe when he said, "Oh, we're effing good. I don't know what everybody's talking about." Cashman's acting in a way I've never seen him act since he started in baseball, and he's been at the Yankees a long time, and it can get to you, and I feel like that he has maybe something snapped, because when you say that about your player who you're paying $32 million for, who you traded for, is that really the sign of somebody who's going to stick around? Hal Steinbrenner is going to have no choice if the Yankees don't perform this coming season. He's finally going to have to do what George would have done years ago, and that's fire Brian Cashman.
David, you said he upset Aaron Judge. He upset the clubhouse, potentially other players. How do you know the players in that clubhouse aren't thinking what Brian Cashman said? That this guy is getting $32 million a year and he never plays 100 games.
I love where your head's at, because it doesn't matter. None of that matters, even if the players think it. How many times did the Marlins players, and this will hit close to home, how often did they publicly go against Hanley Ramirez? How often did the 03 players publicly go against Pudge Rodriguez? How often?
Publicly, not at all. Privately, they were doing it all the time.
Correct. So all I'm talking about is publicly, the Yankees will have to come out and say, and the players, because they're going to be asked about it when spring training starts, this story's not going anywhere. You think that Stanton and Judge and Boone are not going to be asked by the media about Cashman's statements about Stanton? Even though we're only in November, this story will last through February. It's guaranteed to.
Put it on the poll, please, Juju, at Batard Show, cuss or curse. Roy, the Panthers' defense has been fairly extraordinary. Your thoughts?
Yeah, the special teams has been very good as well. Of course, the defense is going to get better once Montour and Eckler comes back. But the entire team defense has been so far above average, despite all the injuries.
Roy, I think you should do after the game wearing vampire's fangs to add a little bit of spice to the proceedings. No one else has a hockey show that is hosted by a vampire.
It's not fair that Roy's the only one who's had a real punishment because Greg Cody loved having his hand in mayonnaise yesterday. He absolutely loved it.
Yes.
Jeremy loved doing whatever that accent was. Like, he was born to be a theater kid for that punishment. And now Stugotz is in sweats.
Right. I love being Rocky.
You are correct. Also, the only punishment about the mayonnaise was symbolically the white man got up at the end and the brown people cleaned it up for him. Left mayonnaise behind, left a soggy bagel that he was using as an armrest, left a thermos that is still here that is responsible for his gargling and gurgling on air.
Why was the bagel wet? It was so wet from his forearm.
It's very confusing. I think it was just sweat in general. I've got a number of questions here for Samson. I should tell people that Pablo López is going to join us at the end of this hour. I've been stunned by how good he is, David. I didn't think his time with the Marlins was a fluke, but I also didn't think he'd be someone who could strike out 9 batters to start a game or be top 5 in Cy Young voting.
I'm not sure where, as a scout, you're saying you didn't think that?
When I saw him pitching, I didn't think that's one of the best pitchers in baseball.
Which, of course, is why you have a media show.
You did.
Everyone in baseball certainly thought that.
You knew. The only guy who couldn't get anything out of Nathan Eovaldi, you knew.
What? We got plenty out of Eovaldi.
You're lashing out.
I mean, what are you talking about? I admit a vulnerability, and what does he do? I know all. I know everybody who's going to be good. I knew Pablo López was going to be top 5 in Cy Young voting.
Folks, listen up. U.S. Cellular wants to help everyone get the gift of connection this holiday season. Already a customer? This applies to you too, because right now, new and current customers can get any phone, and I mean any phone, for free. Yes, free. Sounds like it's time to make the switch. Spread the holiday cheer far and wide this season with a new phone. Everyone can get the gift of connection at U.S. Cellular. Get any phone free today. U.S. Cellular, built for us. Terms apply. Visit uscellular.com for details.
Don Le Batard.
Oh, I like firing people. So I take the opportunity to fire whenever I possibly can because I can use it as a learning experience for them and try to help them out and try to point out what they did wrong. But in this case, the employee was enough levels below where I was that I did not do the firing, but I had it done within moments of discovery.
I like firing people. It's just absurd. It's absurd.
Stugotz.
I'm talking about people who I fire who deserve it, who have done something that actively requires me to fire them. It is my unadulterated pleasure to do so.
This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugotz.
Can you just explain, before we get past this, when you do your, and maybe I just don't get the show, but when you do your punishments and your grid of death and bucket of death or whatever you do, why would one of the punishments be something that hurts the quality of the audio of a show that's audio?
Because it doesn't. It makes it funnier. It's one of the only palatable ways for the audience to enjoy Panther talk.
Thanks, Dan.
But you've been surprised by this, have you not?
You don't get the show.
I may not. No, I think that if you ask people in baseball, they would not say that they're surprised at all. However, some trades are just good for both teams. It's hard to argue that the Marlins didn't get the better part of the trade because they got the silver slugger, but they really got a batting champion and they got a leader at the top of the lineup in Arias. But you got to give to get. And too often in Marlins history, the trades have been money dumps where you weren't getting quality back in return and you were trading quality for quantity of crap and Badenhop. In this case, it was a real baseball trade that benefited both teams. I think it's great.
The Panthers are surprisingly deep at forward, Roy.
Yeah, probably deepest they've ever been. I mean, even the fourth line is scoring. You got Ryan Lomberg and Kevin Stinlin. Ryan Lomberg and Kevin Stinlin, they scored goals last night in San Jose, so they're very deep.
Dan, can you name 3 forwards for the Panthers?
Well, just the ones that he named.
Yeah.
I could just
Well
repeat
done.
what it is that he said. Can you please play for me this Senate fight that we had last night?
We're debating something back here. Are your vampire teeth upside down? Because this is the first vampire with an underbite I've ever seen.
Mike, I noticed that. I was going to say something.
It might be Roy.
Usually the longest.
They're equal in size, but I've never seen an underbite on a vampire ever.
Your lower fangs seem longer than your upper fangs. They do.
Okay.
Can you switch it?
Let's see.
Yeah.
I also don't think that those are vampire teeth. Actually, those look like some kind of animal.
Let's hear how
that
he
makes a
talks.
little bit more sense.
No, this doesn't feel right.
Yeah, but the underbite is gone.
Ask the forward question again, Dan.
Roy, it looks better now. I think you had them upside down, and I also think that that's the better way because I think it's harder to talk with them upside down. Tell me more about this Panthers depth at forward.
Like I said, Ryan Lomberg and Kevin Stinley, they both scored last night, and that fourth line has good chemistry right now. So, yeah.
Now you sound like a Southern hick.
Whoa, careful there.
I wanted to talk to you about this Senate fight, David. Let's look at this. I said earlier this week, we get the leadership that we deserve, and I don't know if that's right now that I think about it, because I do think that we deserve better than this, in Congress.
Pretends like he's self-made. What a clown. Fraud. Always has been, always will be. Quit the tough guy act in these Senate hearings. You know where to find me. Any place, anytime, cowboy. Sir, this is a time, this is a place. If you want to run your mouth, we can be 2 consenting adults. We can finish it here.
Okay, that's fine. Perfect.
You want to do it now?
I'd love to do it right now.
Well, stand your butt up then.
You stand your butt up.
Oh, hold on.
Big guy.
Oh, stop it.
Is that your solution?
Hold it. No, sit down. Sit down. Okay. You're a United States Senator. Sit down.
Actively.
Oh, okay.
Sit down, please.
All right.
Can I respond? Mr.
Hold it. If
Hold
we
on.
can't, no,
This is
I have
what
the
he
mic.
said.
I'm sorry.
This is
hold
what
it.
he said.
You'll have your time.
Okay.
Can I respond?
Oh, no, you can't. This is a hearing.
He took the ring off, man. He was ready to throw down.
And he had the thickness that suggested some experience with the throwing down when you fill out dress clothes that way. But what are we doing, David?
What's the movie where the guy uses the ring when he punches someone and leaves the ring mark? Mike, you may have this at the tip of your tongue.
Green Lantern?
Ace Ventura, where Ace Ventura is trying to find out who's missing a diamond on their Super Bowl ring. So he gets punched by looking at someone at the urinal, and he counts the diamonds that are indented into his forehead.
Not what I was thinking of, but also true.
Is that Scott Mitchell?
That was a good job by you.
I thought that was Bo Kemper.
Mike gave you a lot of detail. I just threw out a flailing Green Lantern because I had no earthly idea. Do you still not know, though? Have you come closer to knowing? Are we just going to flounder around here?
No, we can finish floundering because it'll come to me. I can picture the actor. He's one of the character actors. He's got the huge face, and he's always the meat. He's the meat.
Oliver Platt
punches people.
Oliver Platt has a huge
not
face.
Oliver Platt.
Elijah Wood? Are you thinking of Lord of the Rings?
No.
David.
No, he's a huge guy. So these Senate hearings are really posturing. They don't accomplish a whole lot. You get subpoenaed to appear, and it's generally used to inform the public about things that are going on that the Senate is, and they do hearings on steroids, or they do hearings on antitrust, or they do hearings on things that don't actually impact too many people. The majority of Senate work gets done behind the scenes with lobbyists in the offices. Sometimes it gets done on the floor like Survivor at Tribal Council when the vote changes. But this is all just about getting clicks and getting popularity. And it just makes all of us look bad at all times. But it has zero impact on people's voting for a particular senator. That's the sad part.
Trevor Bauer's agent continues to try and get him work. I don't know that we've had an example exactly like Trevor Bauer in terms of being excellent and not being able to play and being out of the sport. And,
Barry Bonds.
And you have said, yes, thank you. But with this as what surrounds him, where he is, he's a person who has ended up being a weapon for people on the right. He has become a weapon for people who want to hate women, who want to think that women are gold diggers or make up things in order to take advantage of athletes. And he has produced his own edited evidence on why it is that he is innocent. And now his agent is trying to get him back into the sport. And I'm not used to teams in sports making moral stands with arms like this. So and you've said he'll never play again. And I wouldn't assume that he will play again. He had to go to Japan, where evidently it's more okay that Trevor Bauer stands accused of this kind of sexual assault violence during sex he claims is consensual. But what's going to happen here?
His agent is someone named Rachel Luba, who is really just his mouthpiece. She's not an agent who's taken seriously in any way in the industry. Trevor Bauer is persona non grata. He's untouchable. There will not be a team who signs him, and it's not collusion. He can grieve it all he wants. He can go to court all he wants. He will not be able to prove, and the reason he can't prove it is that every team can go before a judge and say the juice is not worth the squeeze. There is no reason why we would have him, and the judge cannot say, but wait a minute, you have a hole in your rotation. Wait a minute, you were the bottom 10 in ERA last year.
Wait a minute, wait a minute, he's excellent. Like, you're telling me he would not have a collusion case?
Correct, because there'd be no way to prove anything other than, from a moral standpoint, owners get to choose who they want to employ, like all employers do, and they can choose for whatever reason they want, and that they individually chose to say, he's not worthy of being on my team. Now, is it true that conversations take place among GMs, among presidents, among owners? Yes. Does that mean it's collusion? No. But is it made very clear that Trevor Bauer will never be in the major leagues again? Yes, it is.
What's the movie you're reviewing for us this week? I should tell people again, Adnan Virk does his movie podcast, Cinephile, and David would badly like to do a movie podcast, but cannot and will not because he's got a lot of other responsibilities at Meadowlark Media, but he sneaks in movies wherever he can on Nothing Personal, and he watches one every day. So what are you reviewing for us today?
Well, I do review one every day. I have one for you, Mike. This is our second week in a row. How is it that Nicolas Cage releases a movie every week? I haven't been able to figure that out. I don't know where he gets the time. But he has a new movie called Butcher's Crossing, where he actually shaved his head, and I thought he had a toupee or some sort of hair color situation going on. He went full head shave, full beard, and it's about the 1800s where people would kill buffalo and sell the buffalo hides. And he takes a Harvard student who says, I don't want to be at Harvard anymore. I want to hunt buffalo and make money this way. And they go on this crazy hunt for buffalo. And it's not like Brokeback Mountain, but sort of. And it's not like Silverado. It's a movie where there is guns and gunplay and weird sort of buffalo hide scraping and hunting and killing. And Nicolas Cage spends the entire movie as this big, bad buffalo hunting guy. And all I kept thinking is, how much did he get paid for this movie? And who is his agent? Because I assume his agent has washed his hands of Nicolas Cage and said, hey, Nick, I'm sending you 10 scripts. You're going to say yes to all 10. No problem. Don't worry about your career. Don't worry about your career trajectory. Keep making crap because the checks keep clearing. And that's all he's doing, and it makes me very sad.
We have less than a minute left. Mike Ryan is one of the world's largest Nicolas Cage fans. He has a pillow in his home of Nicolas Cage's bloated face.
It's weird.
Before we get out of here, speaking of merch, because David Samson has a merch store. I see Juju. What are you showing? You're holding up there a doll-sized T-shirt.
That's mine, Dan.
It's David's shirt.
Okay.
Big brother.
Okay, it's a very small T-shirt, a toddler's T-shirt. But what's going on with our merch store? Because a lot of people are asking. You're in charge of it now, and a lot of people want to do this for the holidays.
Guess what? The Dan Le Batard merch store will be available, and we are launching on December 1st, so get ready. We have gotten this done. No one was able to get it done for years. We have worked together with people in your company, Dan, and we will have a launch. There will be great, amazing holiday deals. There will be great quality merchandise delivered in time for your holidays, and we will not screw it up this time, I guarantee you.
Roy, tell me about the rookie defenseman for the Panthers.
Overs Belinkus.
Kentucky Fried Chicken's 2 for $5 wraps are back. And they're even introducing a new mac and cheese chicken wrap. Are you kidding me? Mac and cheese in a wrap? Two of my favorite things in the entire world. That is in addition to the classic and spicy slaw wraps. Creamy mac and cheese, a hand-breaded crispy chicken tender, and 3 cheese blend, all wrapped in a pillowy tortilla. God, do I love a pillowy tortilla. Order ahead on the app and cheer on tasty goodness with KFC's 2 for $5 wraps. It's finger looking good.
Dan Le Batard.
David Samson, weirdo. Because he was not the fun substitute teacher who'd wheel out a TV and play a VHS tape of Armageddon in science class. He was the weird one who would eat an egg salad sandwich while clipping his toenails into the trash can and ranting about Ronald Reagan.
Stugotz.
The guy kept talking about how his ass was smooth, smoother than a newborn's cheek. He wouldn't stop bragging about his bare buttocks to me.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz.
He's an impossibly sweet man. He just seems so decent, so kind.
Can confirm.
He also can pitch. He's going to get a lot of Cy Young votes, right? Pablo López is with us. We miss him in Miami, and I am sure he misses Miami. I am positive he must miss Miami, that Minnesota is freezing cold. Pablo, thank you for being on with us. You had a great season with the Twins. Everybody was happy with the trade. When you initially got the news that you were being traded from Miami, was that in some ways heartbreaking for you?
Yeah, man, absolutely. You know, we are taught in the minor leagues or in this industry not to get too attached because things like this can always happen. But, you know, like we're all human. We all have those feelings. And the moment it happened, a part of me was, you know, I was having mixed feelings. I created so many genuine, nice, kind relationships with people in Miami, people I still follow, people I still miss. But you got to understand it from the business side was a decision that both front offices were trying to make to help their team. And I mean, you have to acknowledge and recognize that both front offices did exactly what they did, what they needed. They got exactly what they were looking for, and it just worked out. It was a fun year. It was fun keeping track of Miami, keeping track of the Marlins, watching the games, and keeping in touch with some of my friends on that team that were having such a good and fun, like you could tell that they were having fun and they were hungry for more. And I was very happy to see them accomplish what they did. And I think it was just all in all a great year for both organizations that were involved in that trade.
Except that you were mother bleeping Luis Arraez every time he was close to hitting 400, and you were rooting for him to go 1 for 4 or 0 for 4.
Oh man, no, that was unbelievable to watch. You know, he hit 400 for half a season. That alone is unbelievable. And you know, I didn't put too much pressure on myself after the trade. It's hard to fill in shoes of someone you don't even share the same position with, but you know, like the expectations were there. The moment the trade happened, the expectations to like perform, to show what I can do for the team, you know, like those expectations were there. I put those on myself, and it was just about really staying true to my process. You know, he was doing unbelievable things, and I was just trying to do what I knew how to do with what I had. And then it was just
knock
really
it off. You were pretty good, too. Knock it off, all right? Knock it off with the fake humility. I mean, come on. Knock it off.
Well, Dan, Pablo's a very nice man, as we've established, and we wanted to try to get you to say something or do something mean, but you're obviously not going to do that. But I will remind you also that lying is not good. So you're not going to tell us the last time you did something mean, but when's the last time you thought something mean? And remember, you can't lie, Pablo, because that's mean.
Oh man, no. Last time I did something mean, I've been getting ready for the pickleball thing, so I've been playing a lot of pickleball, and every time I miss a shot here and there, you know, like I start getting them in my head too much, and I might do or say some not so nice things, but I try not to let that too much get to me.
You're mean to yourself. You're only mean to yourself when playing pickleball. You do have this event in Miami, Pickleball for Pets. It benefits Paws for You Rescue. They do a lot of good work in Miami with pets, and we will talk about that in a second. Are you hard on yourself? Are you somebody? You were somebody who failed by being a pitcher. You should be a doctor, correct? You should be in medical school. You are a family failure because you're merely an all-star, correct?
To some people, maybe, yeah. And I am very hard on myself. I get that from my mom's side of the family, very study-driven, academic-driven. You know, I have a bunch of smart family members who are lawyers, engineers, all kinds of things. So in a way, I was brought up in that environment where if you were not doing the best that you could, you know, like you would know that you could have done better. And I grew up in that environment. So I fail sometimes at just realizing that sometimes you're just going to fail. You got to deal with that and not be too hard on yourself. But it's hard when you know what you can do and you don't do it.
For those who do not know, he speaks 4 languages. He was accepted to medical school when he was 16 years old. Can you tell me how rigorous your childhood was? Because it seems like if these things are so, you must have had a lot of discipline in your house.
100%. A lot of discipline, a lot of values. You know, I'm in Venezuela, at least in my house. School was to learn, to like get knowledge and stuff, but everything started at home. You know, you wanted to get those values. You wanted to build that discipline. You wanted to build that mental toughness, that resiliency, knowing what you can do, knowing what you're made of. You know, like that mentality that pressure doesn't build character, pressure reveals that character. So like I grew up with that mindset, always trying to learn, always keeping an open mind to learn, and then just soak as much as you can, learn as much as you can. And obviously then, you know, my older sister was in school just getting tons of good grades. So I was expected to do the same thing as a younger kid. And I tried my hardest in doing that. And for the most part I did, but then, like I always had, you know, like that person in my family pushing for more and more and more on every single aspect, not just at school with notes and grades, but also like at home with the values and the way I would carry myself when I was at home and outside of the house.
Was there an absence of fun?
No, it was none. Sometimes it would feel like it was, but you have to find ways to keep it light.
I'm just curious, though, when you're accepted to medical school at 16 years old, where did you break apart on, no, I'm going to choose this path, which is much different than the other paths in my family and has an entirely different set of challenges?
100%. So I graduated high school June of 2012. Back then, the international signing period used to be July 2nd after your 16th birthday. So a month after, the Seattle Mariners gave me the offer to, you know, like become a professional baseball player. And for a 16-year-old kid, that was a huge decision. You know, I had to really think hard of what I wanted to do. I used my support system to try to make the best decision that I could. And, you know, my dad was fundamental in that decision. My dad was a doctor himself, and he played a little bit of baseball, like amateur ball back home in Venezuela. But, you know, like my dad was such a great influence in my life in every single aspect. So it was just a matter of having those good conversations with him of like, he would tell me, no matter what you choose, I know you're going to give it your all. I know you're going to give it your best. But I do think that if you chose to play baseball and it doesn't work out, it will be easier to get back into college to be a doctor rather than if you do it the other way. If you choose college first and it turns out that you don't like it, it might be really hard to get back.
You can still do it if you want. If you want to leave this career behind in baseball that you're pretty good at, you can try that path.
Pablo, how often are guys guessing at the plate? Because like we've talked about, I don't want to like
Giancarlo Stanton.
Yeah, well, okay, we've talked about Giancarlo Stanton being a guesser, and I don't want to like you don't have to besmirch him unless you'd like to. But are there guys that come up to the bat and you're like, this guy's not a very good hitter. He's clearly guessing.
It happens a lot because, you know, just the same way hitters are getting so good, you know, pitchers are getting just as good. You know, like pitchers are covering every single part of the plate with hard velocity, big differences in like velo, pitches that are moving every direction. And as a batter, it's hard to cover every single part of the play. Like you have to hit something that's coming into you, you have to be thinking about it. And then if you're thinking about it, that puts you in the guessing position. And then if the pitcher chooses to go the other way, then you're gonna look like you're guessing. So a lot of time it just depends on the matchup. Like if it's a 2-pitch pitcher, you're guessing for one. If it's a pitcher that can hit every single like quadrant of the zone, then it might be a little harder. So I think it happens more than you think, because it's hard to cover every single part of the play, just like by reacting to what you see. So like if you go to the play, you have a plan, and if you're starting, like if you see that the pitcher is falling into any patterns, then your guesses might be a little better.
Pablo, you're basically saying that it has become so expert-soaked. The pitchers, the hitters have gotten so good at the all or nothing of what they're doing that even the best hitters can't really protect themselves from everything that you're throwing with accuracy. So you're telling us most hitters are doing a lot of guessing because you have to, because there's just no way to hit a pitcher with your expertise unless you're guessing certain portions on location.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Like in my case, I was with Joan Duran. He's a closer for the Twins. And like, you're not going to hit 104 if you're not thinking about it. You're not going to you're not going to hit the 99-mile-an-hour splinter if you're not looking for it. So sometimes you just have to take your shot, like take a guess, and then like hopefully you guess right and you put the barrel on the ball. But reacting to pitches that are moving so much at such high speeds can be really hard. Some people do it. I'm not saying that they don't do it, but there's a lot of like that cat and mouse game going on because of how good hitters are and how good pitchers are too. So and it's just that it's that game within the game that keeps it fun, keeps it entertaining.
What language do you curse in?
Spanish, if I had to.
Okay, so it's not English curses that you are spitting angrily if something's gone wrong on the field. It's Spanish.
Yes, if it were to happen, yes.
It's not, and it's not Italian. It's not Portuguese. Anything. It's just always Spanish.
Yeah, that's the main one.
All right, and is a madre involved? Is there a madre, tu madre?
Yes,
yeah, okay.
yes, very much so.
Okay, there. Can you tell us what it is that you're doing in Miami on Thursday, and what the top 3 things you miss most about Miami now that you're in Minneapolis?
Yeah, so this Thursday from 4 o'clock to 7 p.m., completely free. I'm going to be hosting this pickleball event where it's just supposed to be a very nice, fun, like afternoon, evening. And the main, I've been thinking about it because, I enjoy playing other sports and I'm a huge tennis fan, but, tennis, more impact on the body. You have to be very skillful. So pickleball is like perfect. You just have fun, keep the body moving. And like 4 years ago, my wife and we rescued our dog. And before that, I didn't have any pets growing up. And like, I found myself like all in into like having pets, having dogs, and like loving on them. So I think it's just the perfect combination of a couple of passions I have outside of baseball. And like I decided like, why not make it a very fun afternoon with, make it a fun event playing pickleball, a casual reception after, foods and drinks. Doggies at Arepa Bar is going to be there providing food, yummy Venezuelan food. There's going to be pet adoption on site. So it's going to be Miami Shores Tennis Club, 4 through 7, absolutely free for everyone if they want to show up and just have a good evening. 3
things you miss most about Miami.
Oh, man, I miss the weather. I miss the stadium that has a roof. And I miss all the Venezuelan food options that are pretty much within a 10-minute drive.
How far do you have to drive where you live to get anything that feels like Hispanic or ethnic food?
Oh, man, I had to make a 40-minute drive to find a good one up in Minneapolis.
Yeah. Was there like a 20-minute drive for a not-so-good one?
Yeah, so it was a 20-minute one for a okay one, and then the 40-minute for a really good one.
That's not nice, Pablo.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what it was.
It's their business.
He's just telling the truth.
Different, man. It's different.
Before you go, just last thing, I don't know that a lot of people know, you started a game with a major league record 9 strikeouts. At what point were you even in the middle of that? Come on, this is getting ridiculous.
Man, I would say after the third inning started, the first six, it's like, I mean, it's impressive. You know that you're feeling good, but like once I got into that third inning and the seventh, and like I struck out the seventh guy, I'm like, okay, like something's happening, something's up. And that was a very special day. That was a 1 year anniversary of my dad passing away. So I remember that day for a lot of reasons, and that being the main one. Like I think I was getting a lot of help from someone very special, and I think that was him.
Oh, you felt like he was with you.
Yeah, of course, man. Like that was a very emotional day. I was thinking a lot about him and stuff, and then to just go out there and something cool like that happening, I feel like he had to be a part of it.
When you left here, I know you're good friends with Sandy. Did you have many emotional goodbyes when you say there were mixed feelings about leaving?
Oh yeah, especially because I was training at the same facility as Sandy was last off season. So the trade happening just a couple of weeks before spring training, as we were just getting into like throwing bullpens, throwing live batting practice, playing catch with each other. And then it's just like, man, this might be the last time of us playing catch for another year until the next off season comes around. And yeah, it was hard saying some goodbyes. I remember him, Jacob Stallings called me right away, Luzardo, Mel Sotomayor Jr., who I have a good relationship with, was one of like the hardest goodbyes too, because if it wasn't for him, before I got traded in January, I wouldn't be the same pitcher I was back then. So there were a lot of like emotional goodbyes, but that means it's a very strong relationship that to this day I still maintain.
Who'd you miss the least?
Oh.
The least, I don't know. A lot of guys have come and gone, and it's just it's easier to think of like the good relationships I had.
Don Mattingly.
What an asshole. What an asshole question by you. The guy's trying to do nice things for pets. He's fundamentally decent, and you come in here with your asshole question at the end. Pablo, thank you for being on with us. We appreciate it, sir.
Oh, thank you, guys. Appreciate everything.